Shalom, family. Good to see you all here. Hope you're doing well. Well, people are reacting to the No Kings protest that broke out around the country. There were a total of 2,600 different locations this past weekend of people that came out and showed and expressed how they dislike the job that Donald Trump is doing. They're very unhappy with the Trump administration. And Donald Trump did react. And, it's Donald Trump, so you can't expect it to be anything mature. So, anyway, he does react by showing a video on Truth Social. So, they are saying it was a total of 7 million people that came out nationwide to protest against Donald Trump. That is a lot of people. You know, I think in New York City alone, New York City had over 100,000, but that's what they're estimating. 7 million people came out to protest. And you know how sensitive Donald Trump is. You know he's not happy about this, but he's not going to change. Donald Trump will give it some attention because it just happened, and he's going to just go on like it never happened eventually, just like the one in June. So they said this one was actually way larger than the one they had in June. All right, so I'm going to share my screen. Yeah. Okay. Please give me a 1 if you can see my screen. I'm sure, depending on where you are in the country, some were probably large, some were smaller. Thank you.
Different backgrounds all coming together and exercising their First Amendment right of assembly and of freedom of speech. I think that at a time when people feel that the government, some people in this country feel the government is bullying them into silence and fear. This is a way of showing that we are not afraid. I did not go because Soros told me to go. I did not go because the communists told me to go. I went as an American to exercise my rights. I didn't see any of the things that you all are suggesting. I don't
Did see fearful about fascism, you would not be allowed to protest. That's the irony in all of this, is that people are allowed to demonstrate. That's totally, authoritarians are 100% okay. I'm like, what's on a hat under my civil point? Really? And you just set lines that say, oh, that's a Nazi.
So Laia, I look, you're so right that's by the way, because the aggressor was on a Nazi too. The fact of protesting is a demonstration of people's rights in a democracy. But you just said Republicans have no problem with it, and yet they spent the entire week demonizing.
For like forced down by Sean Duffy, by the way. I should have a quote from that search on Cabinet Dunker said, I'm all about free speech. I'm all about protest. It's the great American way. I'm concerned about who's paying for it. Well, or okay, bear in mind, this is happening at a moment where there has been an increase in violence against.
But hold up, but hang on 1 second. You're jumping all over the place on this one. All I'm saying is there has been a concerted effort, and we played a lot of people, and we probably could have played even more, demonizing people who decide to come out into the streets. And the other part of this, because I'm going to play what Ted Cruz said about the Soros of it all. I don't understand what the leap is between the fact that the protests are happening and the idea that it's going to produce riots. Here's Ted Cruz.
Follow the money, cut off the money. And you look at this No Kings rally, and there's considerable evidence that George Soros and his network is behind funding these rallies, which may well be riots all across the country. And Soros is writing the check.
So, okay. He says, cut off the money. This is a free country. If you want to fund a protest and a rally, I would argue, and I'm sure you would agree, that you should be able to do that, right? But the idea that there are going to be riots, you also said that. Where's the evidence of that?
Well, I mean, you go back and you look in the past what we've seen. Well, we've seen some of these sources, and I'm with you. I don't mind that George Soros, he can spend his money however he wants to. This is America. If he wants to fund rallies and protests, do it. But what we have seen is we've seen crates, bricks and rocks and things be set aside. We have seen, well, why just get out of here? These excited protests, these type protests, what have they been set aside? What have they been set aside for? People to pick them up and throw it at police. Where? Oh, come on, Abu.
For me, even and I want us to just, and we're still just talking about the issue at hand here, because I'm asking you, what evidence do you have of the No Kings rallies being set up for violence? And you're talking about perhaps some isolated incidents around ICE facilities. I'm asking about the No Kings protests, which are, look at the map, 2,500 rallies planned in all 50 states, all across the country. Can you give me evidence that there is a plot to cause violence and destruction as a result of these?
So I would hope that when these rallies happen, that there is no violence. But what we've seen in the past is we had absolutely not only seen evidence and intelligence, but what we had actually seen is people carry out attacks. They destroy property. They go to these cache of weapons, mix, and Eric said they have mixed.
And the same grenades the cells that's with not. Hold on, it's not. And I do think that this is, you can't talk out of one side of your mouth about this being a free country where you're allowed to protest, and then with the other side of your mouth say that you're going to guilt by association. Even, and I don't even know if the association is real, by the way, but guilt by association, any American who decides to go out and protest their government, if there are maybe other people somewhere in the country that might show up who are, have common cause. People have a right to protest. This people who show up at No Kings may not have been the people at the ICE rally. So how can you blame that or use that word?
Calling those people, what I'm saying is the past certainly informs us on how we should deal with these types of groups.
Being there, and what I witnessed on the ground when I was at the No Kings rally in June, I witnessed people who I think were instigators come into the crowd with signs and hats that would be offensive to the crowd that was there for the purpose of baiting people into
highly pro-Trump people.
That I think they were paid instigators. I had no evidence for that, but I think that's very strange that somebody would go to try to use that in the real like,
saying that so I witnessed. Okay, and we're telling you what we witnessed. Or what is you one thing about reality in Korea, in Washington, I have to physically be on the ground. I can't look at multiple news clips.
Lydia asked a question earlier.
Today, organizers say at least 7 million Americans took to the streets protesting what many called an abuse of power by President Trump. House Speaker Mike Johnson called it, quote, the Hate America rally. Here in New York City, police say 100,000 people turned out at multiple marches. They report no arrests. There were more than 2,600 events from coast to coast. They are all part of the No Kings movement, which accuses the president of behaving more like a monarch than an elected official. CBS's Elise Preston in Los Angeles leads us off tonight. Elise.
Jerika, thousands have turned up here in downtown Los Angeles to express their fear and frustration with the administration. Their message, no monarchs in America.
I want to be able to tell my future children that I was here, that I stood on the right side of history.
The nationwide rallies are in response to what organizers call an abuse of power by President Trump, including his administration's crackdown on immigration and its threat to send the National Guard into cities, including Chicago and Portland.
The message is no kings. The message is the Constitution of the United States is a wonderful document that matters.
Republicans said the protests were nothing more than Hate America rallies.
I'm Torian Small in Washington, D.C. Before leaving the Hill this week, House Speaker Mike Johnson framed this rally as a Hate America event. Attendees disagreed.
We love America. We hate what they're trying to do to America.
Today's rally is taking place in big cities and small towns in every state.
I'm Allie Bauman in Morristown, New Jersey. Thousands attended today's rally 16 miles away from the president's New Jersey golf course. This county has deep roots in the nation's founding, known as the military capital of the American Revolution.
Our forefathers fought off kings and said no kings for the first time. So it is full circle.
Judy Kelly is one of the local organizers.
To defend democracy on this land, it does mean a lot to all of us who are working on it.
In Frisco, Texas, the protest was small but vocal.
I believe in democracy. I fought for democracy and sacrificed. And the things that are being done right now in this government are totally ridiculous.
In Europe, protesters were also small in numbers, but passionate outside the U.S. Embassy in London, in Paris and Berlin.
Being here in Germany, especially considering the history that's here, we have a unique perspective to look and say, that's not okay.
Ahead of today's protest, the governors of Virginia and Texas brought in the National Guard to handle any potential unrest in their state. Jerika, those protests have been largely peaceful. Same scene here in Los Angeles.
I'm about to tell you what the No King protest really is, because I feel like a lot of people hearing it, reposting clips, but not actually understanding why it's so important. See, the whole idea behind it is simple. Folks are saying they tired of seeing leaders act like they above the system, like they untouchable. People saying we don't need no kings in America. Not just your boy DT. It's about the idea that any man can sit in power and move unchecked. That's not democracy. That's monarchy energy. And it's crazy, right? Because the same people screaming patriot forget that this country literally started by saying no to kings. Now they want to turn around and crown one, make it make sense. But here's why it really matters, especially for people like you and me. Every time in history, when power got too concentrated, too unchecked, it always us who pay the price first, and I promise you that. Our rights, our resources, our voices, every single time. So when people out here saying no kings, they not just protesting one man, they protesting a whole mindset. They saying we see what's happening, and we not letting history repeat itself. No matter who in office, nobody should have king level power in a democracy. Because the minute that happens, we stop being the people and start being the subjects.
I'm out here because I'm first generation African American. My parents are from Ghana.
That, hold on, I'm going to go back. This is what Donald Trump put out on Truth Social. He put out himself on a plane throwing poop down on the crowd. That's his response to the march. I mean, I guess we can't expect maturity from a very immature man. So hold on, I'm going to play it again. Let's see here. I know it's small.
I'm out here because I'm first generation African American. My parents are from Ghana. It took my mom over 30 years to get her visa, okay? It's not that easy, and I will be damned if anybody thinks that, like, I'm not her American dream. So we're here, we're representing, we stand with LA, we stand with Mexico. We're all just one people, and yeah, we need to be out here showing our support. And I live downtown too, and what's happening down here, like, if this is where it's gonna start, then this is where it's gonna start.
This is my political rant for the day. So I'm pulling up to the gym and I see the No Kings protest happening again for the second time. And here are my thoughts on it. I've slowed down to kind of read their signs. They're in rabbit costumes. They're, you know, someone was holding an American flag, which shocked the hell out of me because, you know, the left has decided that if you are patriotic or you love your country, that you are somehow a far right extremist. I don't even know where that came from. Somebody had an American flag. So that's promising. However, The signs were like, no dictator, protect the democracy. A couple notes on that. Donald Trump was elected president by the majority of the American people, right? So he won the popular vote, the House, the Senate, and every single swing state. So I could see if this protest was like prior to the election, but the election is done. It's done. Like, if you believe in the democratic process, you would just say, you know, I don't like Trump, but you know what? It is what it is, because that's what the people voted for. But you're protesting that while saying you want to protect the democracy. It's kind of crazy. And then also, if this were a dictatorship, if Donald Trump were a dictator, none of you would be allowed to protest. You do realize that dictators, you cannot protest a dictator. You would be unalived. Okay? So even the premise and the title, you are not allowed to do all this and protest your king, okay, in this manner also. If you had like a tyrannical king. So the hyperbole is kind of getting old, for me at least. Also, there were quite a few like Democratic candidates who were in the presidential race that I thought were promising. I can't remember this guy's name, but he was really sharp and smart. And I was like, he's going to be a breath of fresh air to the Democratic Party. The Democrats decided to perform a coup against Joe Biden, insert Kamala Harris, which is a real threat to the democratic process. And yet there were no protests. There were no one was upset. Largely people on the left were just like, yay, we have Kamala. Let's vote for her. I'm like, do you guys realize they just robbed you of your choice? They literally thwarted the entire democratic process. There should have been a protest for that. But there was crickets. So it's like the contradictions are what makes logical, rational people just look at it like, you guys don't have, there's no real leadership. There's no real message. It's just a bunch of emotions. And I'm glad like that. The way I vote is very moderate. I'm a conservative, but I vote very moderately in the sense that my ballot, there's some D's, there's some R's across the board, because I'm looking at, okay, I think this person, this policy, this Democrat is really good on here on, you know, on environmental issues. I like the Democratic candidate for this. On fiscal policy, I like this Republican. That's how we're supposed to vote as American citizens. We're not supposed to have this like party loyalty, because it's we the people, and then we elect the people that we think are going to get the job done and have a track record of doing the job. This whole voting D, voting all R is how we got in this situation in the first place. And, you know, the Democratic Party is losing voters en masse. They lost 3 million voters this year alone. Okay. And it's not just like losing voters. They're losing voters who are then registering as Republican. Every voter that they lost went and registered as a Republican. And I thought that the Democratic Party was going to use this and be like, hey guys, how do we make ourselves better? Let's go back to the drawing board and figure out what we're doing wrong. No, they're doubling down. They're like, we're going to get more aggressive. We're going to, what they say, fight harder, which just means get louder, get more aggressive, protest more. I'm like, this does not work for you guys. You guys you're not using your logic. Okay. So they just need to make sure they don't block me from coming out of the gym, because I have places to go. But I mean, come on. What exactly are you seeking to gain from this, instead of going back to the drawing board and figuring out how to enact some real change and maybe protest the party for their lack of leadership? But it's like this blind loyalty to the party, no matter what they do, I think is just insanity. And this beautiful Saturday, they're outside with rabbit costumes on, talking about a dictatorship. It's a lot.
Wow, y'all. Over 7 million people just took to the streets across America, not to destroy, but to declare. To say loud and clear with your chest, no kings. It was one of the biggest peaceful protests in U.S. history. More than 2,600 rallies, every single state, and even marches in London, Paris, Mexico City, Toronto, all echoing one truth: power belongs to the people. Now, depending on the source, the exact number shifts. Media said millions, organizers said 7. But no matter the count, that's millions of voices saying, we serve God, not men. We follow truth, not titles. We don't bow to crowns made of corruption. They were pushing back against Trump's authoritarian stretch, the shutdowns, the guard deployments, the raids, the arrogance. And around the world, over 15 countries, folks stood in solidarity, reminding America and themselves that democracy ain't dead yet. Meanwhile, Trump goes on Fox talking about, oh, they're calling me a king, but I'm not a king. Then his team goes, well, who cares? Yeah, when millions of souls are out there praying, marching, and demanding justice, somebody better care. Even conservative voices like Joe Walsh warned that this administration might try to spark violence during these protests. But people came in peace. No fear, no rage, just purpose. Zero arrests in New York, calm crowds in LA and DC. Okay, maybe there was a report of a tiny bit of rowdiness somewhere, but that was it. Peace marshals were standing side by side, protecting the energy. It wasn't just organized, it was anointed. Since the No Kings movement started back in June, millions have participated. But this one right here is by far the largest. That's what happens when people stop waiting for permission to believe again. Faith moves feet. And when faith meets courage, systems tremble. So let's be real. This wasn't just a protest. It was a prayer in motion. A reminder that no matter who sits in the White House, there's only one true throne.
Black American folks, I need for you to listen up. Today is supposed to be many No Kings protests planned. I suggest you don't go out there making yourself a target. Nope. What this Black American man is going to be doing today is catching up on my reading. This book, which is steeped in gold, is terrific. I highly recommend it.
Good morning. So nothing fancy this morning. I just wanted to hop up here and talk about the No Kings protests. So before you start gaslighting Black Americans about why they are not going to be outside protesting with you, just know that we are standing in solidarity with you. Just know that we are there with you in spirit, but we cannot physically be out on the front lines because they will be using us as target practice. I'm sure that you're well of your privilege, and I need you to use it immediately. For the longest time, Black voices and Black bodies have been the backbone of resistance in this country, to the point where I don't even know if you know how to resist without Black bodies and Black voices. And unfortunately, it's no longer our turn because we showed up in November in 20 Black Suburbans like Sunday service, and we feel like we did our part. So to the Latinos, the Anglo-Saxons, the Asians who don't never say shit, they don't never protest nothing, to all the communities that have silently benefited from the labor of Black resistance, it's go time. It's your turn. It's no longer our turn right now.
No Kings, step your motherfucking cookies up, bitch. This shit just seems like more of a parade and a performance and optics more than anything else. Rallying together to scream at a building that's definitely closed because it's a Saturday at 10 o'clock in the morning in a major city in a contained space and area. Who are y'all disrupting? Business is still going on. Things are still happening. Mind you, no one's in City Hall. No one's there. It's the weekend. Shit's closed. I'ma just say it. White people can't do shit right. Nothing. Honestly, I don't think it sent any type of message. I don't think it's made any type of significant impact. I mean, everyone got together. Great. But I think that it's an illusion of unity. And a lot of those people were the same ones who voted for what the fuck we have going on right now. So, miss me with all of this bullshit. I'm going to tell you for the 20,000th time, and I'm going to keep on saying it. If you want to make a significant impact in America right now, yelling in the streets is not going to cut it unless you really shutting shit the fuck down. Unless you really not letting people come into fucking businesses. Unless you really using your bodies to stop motherfucking traffic. Unless everybody not going to work. Unless you tearing shit down, burning shit the fuck up. If you not on that type of time, baby, singing and dancing around in costumes, you could just wait till fucking Halloween, bitch. If you really want to make an impact and be, I guess, non-violent about it, stop buying shit. Stop it. Stop buying. I keep fucking saying it. Stop fucking buying. The fact of the matter is, you white motherfuckers got way more immunity than we do. That's a fact in this country. So if you gonna fight for all of us, bitch, I'm gonna need you to get in the motherfucking field and be about that life.
I am so irritated and frustrated, and it's not about the No Kings protest because y'all did what y'all was supposed to do. Y'all showed up and y'all showed out. And I understand that we are literally, quite literally, fighting for our lives to hold on to the democracy of this nation. But it just frustrates me that this man is able to do whatever he wants to do, no consequences, no anything. And he proved that when he got on social media after the No Kings protest to let us know that he didn't care about how we felt about trying to hold on to our democracy. So he posted AI generated videos of him putting on a crown, getting on a plane and flying over the No Kings protest, and shit coming out of the plane on the citizens of the United States, people that he's supposed to be representing. Then it doesn't help that he has deriding men like JD Vance that also put a post out there of Donald Trump with a crown on. So people literally are condoning him being a king in our democratic nation. It really rings true for me when James Baldwin said to be a black person in this country and to be conscious of the things that are going on in this country is to be enraged almost all the time. And that's why I be trying to keep my composure and allow God to do his thing, because only God is going to be able to humble him.
We're going to be giving an honest review of the No Kings protest that I attended in Santa Monica. So there was a lot of bad. If anything, I would probably give it a fat 2 or 3 out of 10 because the political messaging was either inconsistent or all over the place. It was super lived up, and I was surrounded by a sea of people with American flags, which felt very strange because most of the time when there's American flags surrounding me, it brings off alarm bells because that's enemy fucking territory. So imagine my surprise when I roll up and I don't see a single Mexican flag. It's literally just all American flags, whether they're pride colors instead of the red or whatever. It was just strange. And also I didn't really get the, point of the protest. I thought it was just blatantly an anti-ICE protest, but apparently it was just anti-Trump, which is where you get this really inconsistent political messaging where people will say shit like pro-America, anti-Trump, or claim to call themselves anti-fascist, but only addressing Trump as the problem and not the American project in its entirety. Let me paint the picture. A sea of people, hella American flags. I was very uncomfortable. I'm just going to keep reiterating this. I was very uncomfortable. And there was this guy in the middle, or this person in the middle, and he's doing all these chants and all this other shit, and he's speaking. And one part that really bothered me was when he started this chant I am a revolutionary, because there was nothing revolutionary going on at that protest. It was lib the fuck up. How the fuck can you call yourself a revolutionary if you're waving the American flag? How the fuck can you call yourself a revolutionary if your sign says pro-America, anti-Trump? If you are actually revolutionary, if you are actually principled in your politic, then you're anti the American project and not just Donald Trump, because what he's doing is a logical continuation of American foreign and domestic policy. I hate this portrayal of Trump as this spoiler who's breaking the system and going against everything that America believes in, because he's fucking not. He's a fascist, just like every other president that has ever sat in that office. I don't know what I was expecting, but it definitely wasn't that bullshit. And this isn't me saying that you shouldn't go out and protest. I'm still glad that I did. I feel like if anything, just research what event you're going to and make sure that you're not in enemy territory, because it kind of felt like I was the whole time.
Y'all, the level of raccoon was overwhelming out there, and I'm not exaggerating. And you can tell he's not one of us, because didn't we agree not to join any protest? Yeah. So anyway, I don't think it was meant to be revolutionary. It is the point of letting Donald Trump know the country don't like his policies. A lot of people don't like what Donald Trump has been doing since he's been in office. And he's continuing to do a lot of dirt. There's a lot going on behind the scenes that we're not going to see until this whole thing is over. But I did see a few signs in the crowd bringing up the Epstein files, signs of people saying, "I'm not a paid protester. Yeah, I hate Trump for free." Um, and there were people out there just expressing, you saw some ICE. I saw a few ICE signs and signs of letting Donald Trump know that they don't like this government shutdown and all the cuts that he's making, because, contrary to what people think, we are not the biggest ones on assistance. Okay, it's overwhelmingly white people, and they are the ones feeling the pain of losing SNAP benefits, Medicaid. That's them. That's them. I know they try to make it seem like it's us. We're always everybody's scapegoat, so that's nothing new. But yeah, a lot of the responses were quote unquote black conservatives, as you can see. Not shocking. Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, Talia Grisham. I live in Utah, and they crowded the welfare offices. It's overwhelmingly them. Yeah, it is, especially in a place like Utah. I would imagine it would be. I mean, the last time I looked, when all that stuff happened to Charlie Kirk out there, I was looking at the demographics, and I think the quote unquote black population is 1.8% of Utah, not even a full 2% of the population in Utah. So, yeah, that part I'm not surprised about. Mhm. I mean, well, Isaac George, that's what a lot of people brought up about Charlie Kirk. He was sitting there talking against us, but it was one of his own that took him out. Well, that's why the whole concept of HBCUs, it was ridiculous from the start. I knew darn well nobody traveled there from an HBCU just to take out Charlie Kirk. They were really reaching for that one, for real. Mhm. Yeah, well, okay, so you went out there, you were 7 million strong, and I really don't think anything it's not changing anything. It is upsetting Donald Trump, because Donald Trump don't like being opposed. He don't like anybody opposing him in anything. But in the same token, he going to just go on and ignore it. Yeah, he should pay attention to the people, but he won't. He won't. Look, if you go and look, it was just what, 3 weeks ago, he finally came around to admitting that he was fully aware of Project 2025 after being on the campaign trail saying he didn't know nothing about it. He had to say that. If he would have said otherwise, he probably would not have won the presidency. So he did what he had to do to win. So, I mean, this is it. So, I would imagine there's probably going to be more upcoming protest, but like many are saying, what about the Epstein file, Donald Trump? What about the Epstein file? I think Donald Trump is actually relieved that now that the government is shut down, he does not have to hear about that anymore. Because, look, the media in this country is not going to take him to task. They're not. They're going to just go along and just be quiet. And you might see a few citizens here and there online bringing up the Epstein files. But at the end of the day, Donald Trump, he wants that gone. He hopes that by the time the government opens back up, everybody have amnesia about the Epstein files. Well, yeah, he got his little attack dog, Pam Bondi, and she's doing everything she can to keep everything concealed, which she's not much of a lawyer if she's not going to follow the law. And it's just once again Donald Trump being above the law. Now, I heard a few weeks back that he's actually trying to get rid of his 34 convictions. Now, if a judge is really about the law, no, Donald Trump don't get to just ditch his 34 convictions. If that's the case, let everybody with a crime ditch their crimes, you know? But we'll see if that goes anywhere. He could put it in front of a Trump appointed judge. But that's what he is also attempting to do behind the scenes, y'all. He wants those 34 convictions off of him. Although he deserves those convictions. Donald Trump, he didn't get those things put on him politically. Donald Trump has been breaking the law for years. Yeah. All right. G. Bowman Jr., thank you so much for the super chat. Original epitome of vote is to worship. Yeah. Thank you for your support for my channel. Yeah, Bougie Barbie, when he went to the UK, they said the whole time people were lined up in the streets asking about the Epstein file and showing pictures of him and Jeffrey Epstein together, and he was mad about that too. He couldn't even escape it when he went over to the UK. They were putting it all up in his face. I heard about that, Kimmy. Lisa, have you seen that white lady whistleblower about giving illegal immigrants passports and social security? I heard about that. Yes. Well, they said before the shutdown, the Democrats were trying to figure out ways to get the Epstein files released. And then all of a sudden, as soon as they start doing that, the government shuts down. So, Donald Trump is going to be who he is, but you can best believe, like I told y'all, behind the scenes, he is carrying out Project 2025 behind the scenes while this government is shut down. And people are going to be taken by surprise about some of the things he did during this shutdown. So we'll see how much damage is done by the time everything opens back up. So, y'all, I'm going to go ahead and conclude. Thank you so much for being here. I got one more coming up at 7:45, so I hope to see you there. Shalom, family.